FanDuel has released their 2022 NFL DFS Week 1 salaries. So we're going to take a close look at wide receivers, telling you who to target, no pun intended, and who to avoid coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants. We'll be giving our initial takes of Week 1 main slate on FanDuel, and in this video, we're covering wide receivers. You can also look in the description to find links to Week 1 DraftKings and FanDuel shows where we discuss main slate players and other positions.
News will come out after we post this video that may alter some of our opinions, which is why we'll be releasing a full FanDuel Week 1 cash and GPP lineup closer to the beginning of the season. So if you haven't yet, please hit the red subscribe button to make sure you don't miss any of our future content.
And a quick request from our FFC community. We want to hear from you in the comments section. So please tell us your favorite FanDuel wide receiver on the main slate Week 1 and reasons why. So Eric, let's go into the studio and tell them our thoughts.
So as a quick reminder, as we say in our NFL DFS Master Class, wide receivers give you a wider range of outcomes relative to quarterbacks and running backs. So you have a decision to make. If you pay up at wide receiver, you're going to have a little bit more volatility. But let's look at the highest priced guys. Michael, Adams, Samuel, Chase, Jefferson. These are all studs. Let's first ask you, are any of these guys ones you might be willing to pay up for? And if so, who?
I think the answer is no. I'm not willing to pay up, especially this early in the season when we're still trying to figure a few things out. And given what you said in terms of volatility, but if I were going to pay up, I'd go at the bottom of this list and go with Justin Jefferson, partly because, DeVante Adams is in a new offense. And I think even though he's got a nice rapport with the quarterback there from their time at Fresno State, it's a new situation. DEEBO Samuel, we saw, was fantastic when he was getting the ball out of the backfield, but that's not always a guarantee. So for me, and Jamar Chase has to share with others. It's the fact that Jefferson's by far the go-to. I think he showed a lot of impressive advances as the season grew on. So did Chase, obviously, with some of the stuff that happened late in the season. And so he's the one I like most, even though I think he's drawing the toughest defense when it comes to defensive backfield against wide receivers. Yeah, Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you in Justin Jefferson. If I was going to pay up, and the scenario that I would pay up is if bargains present themselves due to injuries later that gives me some salary relief. Sure, I'll pay up for Justin Jefferson when FanDuel disrespects the guy as his number 4 wide receiver, where DraftKings had him at number 2. I don't have a lot negative to say about Jefferson. I just think that he can do even better than last year. Despite being so good last year, he didn't do well around the end zone. He only caught 7 of 23 passes inside the 10. 23. So they didn't have trouble throwing to him around the end zone. He just needed to convert more. I think he's going to continue to develop, and I think he can be big. Where I have question marks on the top two, Adams, new environment. He's being priced as if he was still in Green Bay. He's not in Green Bay. He's in Las Vegas, where they have Renfro and Waller. I don't know how that'll shake out, so I'm not spending $8,500 in Week 1 for him. And DEEBO Samuel may, as you said, not get carries around the back in the backfield or around the goal line, which they were using him. So that could hurt his value. I also don't know how he will connect with Lance as opposed to Garoppolo. So Jefferson's my pick. Let's go down though. If I was going to save money, I think there's some bargains down in the next series of players. The guy that I like is Michael Pittman Jr. because FanDuel, they're giving him away on DraftKings, but still at FanDuel's price, $7,200, he's reasonable. How often are you going to get a clear number 1 wide receiver? Nobody else caught more than 40 receptions last year on this team, and they didn't bring anyone else significant in as a free agent or a trade. So he's clearly the guy. He gets an upgrade at quarterback to Matt Ryan, And he has a wonderful matchup against Houston. Like I've told you guys many times, I've watched Houston's secondary, and they believe in full COVID protocol, staying 6 feet away from all wide receivers.
Yeah, that defensive backfield is atrocious. Pittman and Matt Ryan should be able to benefit from it, and he's a clear number one. New quarterback, some might argue that creates some uncertainty. You obviously have a similar situation with Hill being in a new environment in Miami. A little bit surprising to see him a bit lower than other folks, but remember, he'll be competing with Jalen Waddle, who I think brings similar talent, maybe not quite the speed, to Miami. So I think he'll benefit from having someone opposite him with that type of talent. But it also is going to affect the number of touches that he gets. I'm also looking for Keenan Allen to have a rebound year. I know he obviously still had a good year, but he didn't have quite the same year last year he's had in other seasons, and he's still really a strong possession receiver. But this isn't DraftKings. It's not full PPR. So you got to take that into account. And then AJ Brown, I'll throw it back to you.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that Keenan Allen, because I think one of the strongest reasons for Keenan Allen is to say, hey, I want exposure to that Las Vegas LA Charger game. But just scroll down. FanDuel has discounted at $6,600. We go way down to get to Mike Williams. And as you pointed out, this is a half PPR. Mike Williams is a big play option. I love him if you're going to play FanDuel GPP. He would definitely be in my GPP lineup. But I think even for cash game, he got more yards and more touchdowns than Keenan Allen last year. So he's bigger, he's faster. He's my guy in the if you're picking a Charger wide receiver on FanDuel.
And if we're talking about discounts, I mean, look at where Deontay Johnson is. I know we got a quarterback change there, but he still performed well in the second half of the season last year with some variation at the quarterback spot. And Cincinnati also very weak against wide receivers. And so I just think for what he's done historically, it feels a little bit more bargain-like if you're trying to save dollars.
Yeah, and you and I both love Deontay Johnson. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, his change to quarterback. It was obviously that Ben Roethlisberger trusted him, and he went to him all the time. He was always at the top of the targets per games list. But let me tell you, folks, Ben Roethlisberger was not good last year. So I actually think, even if it's Mitch Trubisky, I think he'll play better than Ben Roethlisberger did last year. So I have no problem with Deontay Johnson. I want to talk a little bit about the Browns. You got two Browns, AJ Brown and Marquise, aka Hollywood Brown. Both of these guys are number one wide receivers who are changed teams. But I got to tell you, Hollywood Brown is actually, I think, in a better environment. Why? Because he goes to a more passing team in Arizona than Philadelphia. And he goes to a spot where there is a void. Hopkins, DeAndre Hopkins is been suspended, so he is not going to be playing. So as long as Hollywood Brown is playing, Michael, you know why I say that, he was caught speeding on the highway. So as long as he hasn't been disciplined by the NFL, I kind of like him at $6,900.
Hasn't there also been some speculation that he's a little behind on the offense?
Yeah, is that because he needs to get up to speed on it?
I think that's right. I mean, there is a little bit of a question mark there, but I agree with you. He could have a very good first few weeks of the season, provided he doesn't get suspended. So I think that's one to keep an eye on. I mean, AJ Brown, what a talent he is. I'd like to see that work out for him. Detroit historically doesn't give a lot up to the wide receivers. That's because they're usually well behind. So I don't know what to think of that.
Yeah. I'd like to see how he fits into this Philadelphia offense. I think he could do really well, and I may get completely burned and AJ Brown goes completely off, but I kind of want to take a wait and see. Speaking of waiting and seeing, Terry McLaurin has been waiting and seeing whether he would get a quality quarterback thrown to him and for many, many, many years. And my question is he still have to wait? Now he has Carson Wentz throwing to him. Any interest in McLaurin? I think he's a great talent, and he has a good matchup, but how much do you trust Wentz?
Yeah, I mean, Wentz is such a kind of tale of two guys, right? Sometimes he looks like he's the least accurate passer, and then sometimes near the goal line, he could be one of the best. Terry McLaurin has turned into a possession receiver, which is really valuable in DraftKings. Obviously, he can spread the field as well with his speed. He's going to be used. He's going to be the number one guy. Is it an upgrade? I think it is. Week one, do you want to go with him? If he was a little bit cheaper, it would sure make him a little more enticing.
A lot of people think Carson's last name is Wentz, but it's actually what their head coaches do every time he throws the ball in traffic. So I like McLaurin. If you trust Carson, I would definitely start him. If you don't, if you have doubts, then you might want to sit him. Just a few other guys here that I wanted to potentially touch on at in the $6,500 range. I don't know if anyone jumps out at you. You've got JUJU Smith-Schuster, who is stepping in, and somebody is going to get a lot of receptions in Kansas City for the void of Tyreek Hill. Do you think it's going to be JUJU Smith-Schuster?
Well, he certainly doesn't play the same role. JUJU is not a fast guy. He's a possession guy. TYREEK, obviously one of the fastest, if not the fastest guy in the league. So I don't think it's the same, but he'll certainly get the ball to make sure that Kelsey doesn't always get double teamed all game long. And so I'm not so sure.
And we've got the same story in Green Bay, right? With LAZARD, who's also in a good matchup. But who is going to get all of the receptions that went Davante Adams away? It's probably going to be spread amongst a lot of players. But do you think LAZARD will be the number one wide receiver?
Well, we saw what happened when DEVANTE was out early on when LAZARD was there, I think even 2 seasons ago. And we heard Rodgers talk about him. So I think he does like him. I just don't know that LAZARD has the speed to kind of shirk the double duty if he gets double teamed much. So I don't think it's a little too early for me to get comfortable with this.
Okay. So the other guy I think that is getting a little bit of a buzz, and be honest with you, he is reasonably priced on FanDuel at 6,500, is AMON-RA St. Brown. Now, some of the people who are outside of Detroit and who decided, you know what, I'm not going to follow the Detroit Lions at the end of the year, and I don't blame you if you're that way. This guy blew up in the last 6 games of the season. The question is, will he be able to continue that into next year? Keep in mind, they've signed DJ Shark, and that Hawkinson, their tight end, was out almost through that entire time. But if you believe in him, if you believe he can do anything like he did at the last 6 weeks of the season, he's worth this price.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. The fact that the same quarterback situation, yeah, you're right. With Chark coming over, that may affect the touches. Hawkinson back, but Chark's new to the program there. I think St. Brown could have a nice start to the season here.
Another guy who's very reasonably priced in this range, and I don't have a problem going to at $6,400, is DJ Moore. I mean, he was a talent. He is a talent, and last year he finished 6th in all of football in targets per game. And I don't know about you, I fully expect Mayfield to beat out Sam Darnold. And if he does, I think that he's going to get an upgrade at quarterback in week 1. We've got the revenge game for Mayfield if he is the starter. I like DJ Moore here for the price.
Yeah, this is one to keep an eye on. If for sure Baker Mayfield gets that start, I think this is appealing.
Yeah, I like both guys at 6,100. Rashod Bateman is going to be the new number 1 wide receiver on Baltimore in a tremendous matchup. Now, I'm not kidding you guys. The number 1 target is Mark Andrews, their tight end, but he will step in and he will play a huge role in that offense. 6,100 is simply too cheap for Rashod Bateman. So I like him, especially in cash games where I want to make sure I have a floor over Michael Thomas. And Michael, what has happened to Adam Thielen? I know that Justin Jefferson is clearly their new number 1 wide receiver, but is Thielen in a good matchup? Do you have any interest?
Well, again, Green Bay is really tough against wide receivers. And, you know, Thielen has been more of a possession guy, but look what he did last year. And much of that, you know, he was unhealthy for part of the season. So is he healthy is the real question. And if he is, this is a bargain. This is a very nice bargain.
So those are the key wide receivers. Be sure to check out our other shows on FanDuel, where we take a deep look at quarterbacks, running backs, and tight ends. We'll put one of those shows on the screen, as well as a DraftKings show. Until we see you in the next video, take care, everyone.
Be safe.